It's better for you to still be moving even when you make a mistake than you being at rest, because at least when you're moving, God can redirect you. But when you're at rest, you're the one that's in control. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Mount Fatima Podcast with your host, Fatima. Thank you so much for all the love, all the support that all of you have given the podcast and myself through Instagram, through text messages, through YouTube, and even, rating it and listening to it on Spotify. I just want to say thank you for the support. I am very, very happy and very honored to be doing this and knowing that this is helping you and it's been encouraging for you. I'm just grateful. I'm very grateful and very humbled, because I think I mentioned this in the first episode that this is not a platform that's for me. This is a platform that's from God, and it's a platform that's for all of you that are listening, all of you that are watching. And I'm just excited to see what's gonna come through this, through obeying the Lord and through taking risks and just being obedient to what I believe that He has called me to do. So again, thank you. Continue to watch, continue to share, continue to listen, continue to download, and I know that we will all be completely changed by what happens here. So again, thank you. I know that last week in episode 1, we talked about leaving our comfort zones, right? And making sure that we take those steps practically in order to move towards the vision that God has given us to accomplish. And today I want to continue that conversation with all of you. And I want to talk about embracing the process. Say it with me, embracing the process. Or type it down below, embracing the process. I want you guys to engage with me as I share more about this idea and this concept that I really think is important to talk about. We talked about, leaving your comfort zone, but obviously when you leave your comfort zone, there's going to be a process that you have to go through, and there's going to be a plan that you have to follow in order to achieve those greater works that I truly believe God has wanted us to accomplish. It's crazy because I read that scripture today and it just encouraged me a lot more to continue to keep going and to continue to embrace my process. So the goal of this episode is, like the title says, to embrace your process. Everybody's process is different. And along the way, we have similar principles that we can apply to take the next step and move forward. I was actually debating a little bit on what to title this episode, because to me, and you guys can tell me your opinions and I want to hear your thoughts about this, but to me, the phrase that's really popular and common when it comes to embracing the process is trusting the process, or like trust the process. You hear it everywhere. You see it on journals, you see it on t-shirts, posts online, and I think I had a difficult time titling this episode that, because I don't think that's how I don't see it that way. To me, what's important in your journey is that you trust God and that you embrace the journey you are on. Let's talk about that. Let's unpack it a little bit more. So trusting God, right? What does that mean? I think it's easier, or not easier said than done, but as a believer, growing up in the church, we get used to these phrases. But when I was thinking about this concept, it made me pause and really dive deeper into what that looks like, because so many times as believers, we do things out of this practice and this habit that we have created, and which is completely fine and healthy. But sometimes it's good to dig deeper in order for us to have a better understanding on why we do what we do, or why we believe what we believe. I started digging a little deeper when it came to this idea of trusting God. And I paused and I was like, okay, well, what does that trust look like when it comes to a relationship that I have with a friend or with my mom or just anybody in general? But in order to trust somebody or to say that you trust someone, there has to be some type of foundational relationship there, right? And once you have that relationship there, and you know them, and you know their intentions, and you know their heart, and you know their character, then you're able to trust them, and you're able to do things that back up that trust or to strengthen that trust. To me, trusting the process is not something that I believe is an accurate depiction of that idea. Because when you trust in a process, you're saying that you are relying and that you are putting all your credibility on that set of actions, when in reality, our trust should be in someone that we have a relationship with. And obviously, to me, that is God, because He leads my life, and my goal in life is to do everything that He wants me to do. But when I trust Him, I know that I can also depend and act upon the things that He tells me to do in order for me to fulfill His will in my life. Recently, with this podcast, it's been a journey, guys. It really has been. I've experienced a lot of blockages or self-limiting thoughts or beliefs, in which I'm so excited about this other episode I plan on recording with one of my friends, which is all about your mindset and how that's like imperative that you have a hold of, and that you truly know what's going on up here, because it affects everything. But anyways, that's besides the point. Recently, I've been doing a lot of self-developing, and one of the things that I realized is that I had a lot of self-limiting thoughts, and because of that, it's truly important to be self-aware of those things. That way, when you feel like you're not trusting God, or when your actions don't line up with your trust in Him, you can question and you can pause and say, okay, there's something going on here, but let me surrender this belief system that I have currently, and let me embrace the mind of Christ, and let me embrace the journey that God has me on, so that I can continue to take steps in that direction that He wants me to go in. It's been a challenge, because I think the older that we get, we pick up things along the way that are opportunities for us to build and continue to strengthen our trust in the Lord. But if we don't have the right mindset, then it can limit that opportunity, and then we don't look at things from the right perspective. Which leads me into another thing that it's important to learn as we embrace the journey, which is, in order to embrace your journey, you also have to be aware that how you interpret setbacks will determine your next step. This is another thing that I've had to learn in my journey with the Lord, and in my journey towards purpose, and in achieving these greater things that I believe I'm called to create and to implement in this world. Recently, I've been learning a lot from entrepreneurs and CEOs by watching a lot of interviews that they've done. And I love learning about their journeys, because it really gives me a perspective of what it takes to be successful in business, be successful as an entrepreneur, and be successful, as somebody that has a vision and can make it happen. And one thing that I noticed with a lot of the entrepreneurs and CEOs that I've taken notes from is that whenever they had setbacks or whenever they experienced challenges, they believed so much in their vision that it didn't faze them. Now, of course, this took resilience and it took self-discipline for them to overcome those challenges. But at the end of the day, they believed, even though they experienced those things, they were still going to be able to achieve their vision. It really made me question a lot of how I interpret challenges and how I interpret setbacks, because if I experience something that kind of shakes the vision or shakes the plan that I had for the vision, I can be a little shaky. I can be a little whoa, 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 whoa. I did not expect this to happen. I had to do a lot more digging within myself and within my mindset and what I believed about my own self. And not just myself, but about the opportunities that come before me, and how My trust in God has been not as strong as I thought it was. And then I had to come to a point where like I had to ask God, help me with this because I'm struggling to really move forward. I feel stuck, or I feel like whatever I do, like, is it going to impact? There's just so many questions that can come up. It's normal, but regardless of that normality, the important thing is that you still continue to recite that vision that God gave you, and that itself will continue to keep you moving forward. When you remind yourself of what He told you was going to be accomplished, that makes it so much easier to move forward and to take steps in the right direction. Because if you didn't have a conviction when you started, then you're not going to have a conviction when you have setbacks along the way. So it's really important that you have that vision so ingrained in your heart that you continue to do what's necessary to make it happen. There are other forces that can come in the way that can either pull you away or make you make mistakes along your journey. But irregardless of this, what matters is that you continue. What matters is that you embrace those challenges and that you embrace those setbacks and that you embrace those things as opportunities for you to learn even more things. And those are probably opportunities for you to even be more creative and for you to look at it as something that is going to be rewarding in the end. Which brings me to another point in embracing the process. You have to keep going. As simple as that sounds, it is very important that you keep going. When I think of this idea, I have a lot of ideas today, right? I think they're important principles that we can apply in our daily lives, even if it's just 5 principles that you apply and that you live by, like you truly live by, that set you up for success and that set you up for the desired results, then things are easier because you have an idea of how you can navigate those muddy waters. Because the truth is, life will happen. Life will happen to all of us. And it could be through outside circumstances, or it could be something that you're going through on your own. It could be family, friends, whatever it is. Things will happen, and those things can be opportunities to distract us from our purpose. I applaud everybody that has that type of discipline to still move forward whenever life happens. I'm learning to build that discipline. I'm not perfect, but I'm so thankful that I'm able to know people that irregardless of what's going on, their vision, the vision that God gave them, is what's primary in their lives. And I'm so, so grateful that I have amazing examples all around my life that have taught me how to do so. Now that, I have this project of the podcast, and as more projects I start to embark on, I know that I'm going to be faced with challenges. I know it, whether it's internal or external. I know that they're going to come. But now that I'm prepared with these things that I am telling you guys about, I feel more equipped, and I will be able to face those things and overcome them in order to be that much closer to the vision for this podcast, to the vision for all the other endeavors that I will have. And the same thing can happen to you. You will be closer. You will be moving in the direction that God wants you to move in. You will be continuing in the journey towards purpose. And that's what it's all about. When I think about this idea of keep going, I think of physics, and I think of Newton's first law of motion. And I believe it says, an object at rest remains at rest, but an object in motion will remain in motion with the same speed and at the same direction unless it's hit by an outside force. And I think that's so deep, because in order for us to be closer to our purpose or be closer to this vision that we are putting our everything to, we cannot be at rest. We have to be actively working towards it. And when we are actively working towards it, we are able to be, one, closer to it, But also, even if an outside force comes in, it won't matter because you can be redirected towards your purpose. And I remember when I was in college, I think. Yeah, I was in college and I was doing an internship. I was talking to one of like an old mentor of mine. He was teaching this idea of how a lot of times as believers we can feel as if we can't make mistakes. And I remember him saying, it's better for you to still be moving even when you make a mistake than you being at rest, because at least when you're moving, God can redirect you. But when you're at rest, you're the one that's in control. And that blew my mind because it's so true. It's so important that we are actively walking and we're actively working towards our purpose. Because when we're not, God cannot do anything. The choice is ours, which is why it's so important to trust Him, and it's so important to embrace the journey that we're on so that we're not at rest, because something at rest will stay at rest. So I want to encourage all of us to keep going, regardless of what your situation is. Keep going. I had to tell myself to keep going. I had to tell myself to record this episode. As long as we are diligent with what God has placed within our hearts and with our hands, He will do the rest. He will take care of every single thing that is bothering us, every single thing that we're struggling with. He will take care of every single thing, because whenever we're in purpose, it's because of Him. And if it's because of Him and for Him, He will take care of it. So many times we get in the way of God. So many times we limit what God can do with us being in our weaknesses. But when we are in our weakness, He is the strongest. And that's a beautiful place to be. Whenever we surrender what's going on and we still keep His purpose as our focus, He will take care of everything. Be encouraged today. I know that I mentioned I wanted to have a challenge every single week. And this week's challenge is writing the answer to these two questions. What does trusting God look like in my life right now? And how am I embracing the journey that He has me on? And you know, before this, when I was going over my notes and stuff, I typed up my own thing. So I actually want to read it for you so you have an idea of what you can write. And I definitely want to share that with all of you because we're in this journey together. All right, here we go. I typed, I will trust God with the ideas that He has given me to impact people and to cultivate generational wealth. I will be diligent in studying and researching about the industries that I will work in the future, and I will prepare by having plans and beginning to take action towards them. I will embrace my process by continually renewing my mind, accepting all the steps that are before me and the ones that might not be as clear. I will have wise counsel around me for checks and balances and to make sure that I do things with integrity and with excellence. And you can be as detailed as you would like, but I think it's important to have, objectives in our lives written down. I think there's power in that. The more that I do it, the more that I see how it really solidifies what you're doing. And it keeps you accountable for everything that God has ordained for you to do in this life. That's a little bit about my own journey with this podcast and with other things that I will continue to embark on. This podcast is not just for me. This podcast is for all of you that are listening, that are watching, and that will continue to take the next step in achieving the greater works. And I'm just so grateful for every single one of you watching, every single one of you listening. I don't ever want to take my time sharing things with you for granted. I thank God for all of you. And I really believe that as we continue to embrace the process, we will see amazing things. And I cannot wait to to celebrate all the milestones that we all hit and celebrate together. Because that's another goal that I have. You know, in the future, I would love to have meetups. I would love to have events where we all gather and just talk about the things that we were able to accomplish throughout this process. That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. I know this was a little more chill and a little more reflective than last week, but I definitely want to have a variety of talks with you, and I want to be able to discuss, you know, practical things that we can accomplish, but also things that are creative and that inspire us to think even bigger than we already are. So once again, thank you so much for watching and for listening. If you haven't subscribed, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure that you follow the Mount Fatima Podcast on Instagram. Follow me, your host Fatima, on Instagram as well, at Tima G Style. Also, make sure that you go to Spotify and that you hit the subscribe button, that you download, that you rate. Make sure that you rate, guys. Make sure that you rate the podcast. Let me know your thoughts, and let Spotify know that this is a podcast worth distributing out to the world, because it's helping, if it is helping. I hope it is. But again, thank you so much. I love all of you. If you know somebody that has a big vision, but they are currently struggling to move forward, you know, share the link with them, and hopefully this can be an encouraging thing for them to listen to and to continue in their journey to purpose. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next episode.